You didn't imagine it. Something shifted in that relationship, and it wasn't random. They changed. The connection broke, and it hurt more than you expected. But what you felt wasn't rejection, it was intervention. God didn't allow it to continue because it would have cost you too much. What looked like loss was actually love in disguise, divine protection wrapped in pain you couldn't understand at the time. By the end of this message, you'll understand why God stepped in when He did, and why the quietness that followed wasn't abandonment, but alignment. There's a silence that follows when someone significant leaves your life. Not just the absence of their voice or their presence, but something deeper. The quietness settles into spaces you didn't even know they occupied. The phone stops ringing at certain times. The conversations that filled your evenings disappear. The shared plans, the future discussions, the daily check-ins, all gone. And suddenly, your life feels smaller, quieter, emptier than it was before. You didn't cause this. You weren't asking for too much. You didn't miss a sign or fail to love them properly. You didn't do something wrong that pushed them away. The distance that opened between you wasn't because you weren't enough or because you loved too little or too much. You didn't misread the connection or imagine the bond you thought you shared. The quietness that followed wasn't punishment for your mistakes because there weren't mistakes to punish. What happened was divine intervention, and it came disguised as relational distance. God saw what your heart couldn't see. He witnessed what your emotions couldn't process. He understood what your mind couldn't comprehend. While you were holding on, trying to make it work, praying for restoration, God was orchestrating separation, not to hurt you, but to protect you from something that would have hurt you far more if it had continued. The confusion you felt when they started pulling away wasn't because you were reading the situation wrong. It was because two forces were at work. Your heart was still connected, still hoping, still believing in what you thought you had built together. But God's hand was already moving to create distance, to block access, to close doors that needed to be closed. The emotional whiplash you experienced wasn't your fault. It was the tension between human attachment and divine protection. You loved someone God was removing from your life, and that created a pain unlike any other. Because loving someone doesn't always mean keeping them. Sometimes it means releasing them, even when every part of you wants to hold on. God doesn't remove people from our lives carelessly. He doesn't create separation without purpose. He doesn't allow quietness to settle without reason. And this is where most people misunderstand what God was doing. They think the quietness means God wasn't listening to their prayers. They believe the distance means their faith wasn't strong enough. They assume the separation happened because they failed somehow. But that's not what happened at all. God saw what you couldn't see. He witnessed the conversations that happened when you weren't around. He heard the words that were never spoken to you. He saw the intentions that were never revealed. He understood the direction that relationship was heading, and he knew it wasn't where you needed to go. So he stepped in, not as punishment, but as protection. When God removes someone from your life, He's not taking something away from you. He's taking something off you. He's lifting a weight you didn't even know you were carrying. He's closing a door that would have led to a room you were never meant to enter. He's redirecting your path away from a destination that would have left you emptier than the quietness you're experiencing now. Think of it like this. God sees the end from the beginning. He knows where every relationship leads, what every connection will cost, what every attachment will demand from your soul. When He blocks access to someone, when He creates distance, when He allows the quietness to settle, He's protecting something in you that you might not even know exists yet. He's preserving space for something better, someone better, a connection that will build rather than drain. The separation was mercy, not loss. The distance was protection, not rejection. The quietness was preparation, not punishment. God blocked what your heart couldn't release on its own. He created space where you couldn't create boundaries. He said no when you couldn't find the strength to walk away. Because here's what you need to understand about divine protection. It doesn't always feel protective at first. Sometimes it feels like loss. Sometimes it feels like loneliness. Sometimes it feels like the very thing you needed was taken away just when you needed it most. But God's protection operates on a timeline your emotions can't see, and with wisdom, your heart can't fully grasp in the moment. The quietness you're experiencing isn't empty space. It's sacred space. It's room for your soul to breathe without the weight of a connection that was costing you more than you realized. It's silence that allows you to hear God's voice again without the competing noise of someone who was drowning out his whisper. It's peace that can finally settle because the chaos of trying to make something work that God was trying to end has finally stopped. Your peace left that relationship because God was protecting it. Your anxiety increased because your spirit was trying to tell you something your heart didn't want to hear. The restlessness you felt wasn't a sign that you needed to try harder. It was a sign that you needed to step back and let God work. God doesn't remove what's meant to stay. He doesn't create distance between hearts that are supposed to beat in rhythm. He doesn't allow quietness to settle over connections that are meant to thrive. When someone fades from your life, when the conversations stop, when the closeness dissolves, it's because God saw something you couldn't see and loved you enough to intervene. The quietness that followed their departure wasn't the sound of your life getting smaller. It was the sound of your life getting clearer. It was noise being removed so you could finally hear what God was trying to tell you. It was distractions being eliminated so you could focus on what truly matters. It was space being created for something better to enter. This is where God's protection becomes clear, not in the moment of separation, but in the peace that follows. Not in the pain of distance, but in the clarity that comes after. Not in the immediate aftermath of loss, but in the gradual understanding that what left wasn't your future. It was the obstacle standing in the way of your future. Sometimes God's protection doesn't feel like protection at all. It feels like abandonment. It feels like silence. It feels like the very thing you thought you needed being pulled away just when you were most vulnerable. But what if that emptiness isn't absence? What if it's presence in disguise? What if the quietness that settled over your life after they left wasn't the sound of something ending, but the sound of something sacred beginning? Because here's what happens when God removes someone from your story. The silence becomes purposeful. The emptiness becomes intentional. The distance becomes divine design. You're not experiencing loss. You're experiencing liberation from something that was slowly stealing pieces of your soul you didn't even know were missing. Look at what happened to your peace when they were around. Notice how your mind raced when you were with them. Remember the anxiety that crept in during conversations, the way you started second-guessing yourself, the way you began changing parts of who you were to accommodate who they needed you to be. That wasn't love requiring sacrifice. That was your spirit recognizing danger your heart couldn't name. God protected you in ways you couldn't see at the time. The quietness wasn't punishment. It was preparation. The distance wasn't rejection. It was redirection toward something better. If this message brought clarity, write Amen in the comments. Subscribe for more messages that bring peace, clarity, and divine understanding to your journey.